My sister ruined my reputation. Karma was patient. Before I tell you what my sister did to me, I want to know you're here with me. Just comment, listening, below, or let me know where you're watching from. If you've ever had your reputation destroyed by someone you trusted, if you've ever been accused of something you didn't do while everyone believed the lie, this story is for you. Sometimes justice doesn't come with sirens and headlines. Sometimes it comes quietly, methodically, and completely. Thank you for being here. Now let me tell you exactly how my sister tried to erase me. My sister ruined my reputation on a Tuesday afternoon in front of 300 people. The annual industry conference in Chicago, the Drake Hotel ballroom packed with colleagues, clients, and competitors. I stood on that stage accepting an innovation award when Lana's voice cut through the applause. Before we celebrate, everyone should know the truth about those numbers. The room didn't just go quiet. It tilted. 300 faces turned from me to her, then back to me, confusion rippling through the crowd like a wave. Lana stood near the back, her expression perfectly calibrated between concern and righteousness. The client data Sienna presented was obtained through unauthorized access. I have documentation proving she violated confidentiality agreements. My award, a crystal sculpture I had been holding for exactly 45 seconds, suddenly felt like evidence. The applause died. Whispers started. I opened my mouth to respond, but Lana was already walking toward the stage, a manila folder in her hands like a prosecutor approaching the bench. "I'm sorry to do this publicly," she said, her voice carrying that practiced tremor of reluctant honesty. "But as her supervisor and her sister, I can't let this continue." The audience shifted uncomfortably. Some pulled out phones. I watched my identity detach from my body as 300 strangers began rewriting me from innovator to criminal in real time. No one asked for my side. They just stared. My phone vibrated non-stop before I even left the stage. By the time I reached my hotel room 20 minutes later, the accusation was already online, polished and viral. Someone had recorded Lana's speech and posted it with the caption, "Corporate fraud exposed at industry conference." The video had 12,000 views. Then 18,000. Then 30,000. Comments piled up faster than I could read them. Always the quiet ones you have to watch. Her own sister had to expose her. That's how you know it's real. I worked with her once. This doesn't surprise me. That last one came from someone I had never met. I watched my name mutate into something unrecognizable. Every refresh added new strangers dissecting my character, my career, my worth. People who had never spoken to me were now experts on my corruption. The innovation award I had spent 2 years earning became evidence of fraud within an hour. My company email showed 47 new messages. I opened the first 3 before my hands started shaking too badly to continue. "We need to discuss this immediately." From my manager. "Clients are asking questions." From sales. "Legal wants documentation of all your projects." From HR. Then I saw the screenshots Lana had posted. Client files with my access stamps. Confidential data with timestamps showing after-hours downloads. Email exchanges that looked damning. Until I noticed something impossible. The dates were wrong. I had been at a wedding in Boston on March 15th, but the screenshots showed me accessing files in Chicago that same afternoon. Someone had edited these records carefully. Intentionally. Someone had engineered this version of me. I spent the night cross-referencing every screenshot against my own records. Travel confirmations, credit card statements, photo timestamps. I built a timeline proving I couldn't have accessed those files when Lana claimed. At 3 a.m., I finally understood the precision of her attack. She hadn't just accused me. She had constructed an alternate reality so detailed that disproving it would require forensic analysis most people wouldn't bother with. The edited files weren't crude forgeries. They were sophisticated manipulations that would pass casual inspection. Only someone with deep technical access could have created them. Only someone like Lana, who controlled our department's IT security protocols. I documented everything in a folder I labeled Defense. But as dawn broke over Chicago, I realized documentation wouldn't matter if no one wanted to see it. My phone rang. "My manager, Kyle. We need you back in the office tomorrow morning. HR wants to meet." "I can explain the. Just be there at 8. He hung up. His tone told me everything. This wasn't an investigation seeking truth. This was damage control seeking closure. I arrived at the office the next morning with my defense folder and a resignation letter. I had learned to recognize when a fight was already lost before it started. HR didn't react with surprise when I presented my evidence. They reacted with relief. "Thank you for bringing this forward, Sienna. We'll include it in the file." "The file?" "The termination file. We've decided it's best if you resign effective immediately rather than pursue formal proceedings." They had already decided. My evidence was just paperwork to complete their process. What about the timeline discrepancies? I asked, pointing to my travel records. I wasn't even in Chicago on March 15th. The HR director, a woman named Patricia, glanced at my documents with the expression of someone checking a box. We'll note your objections. But given the sensitivity of the situation and the public nature of the allegations, the company feels immediate separation is the best path forward. Translation: they didn't want truth. They wanted containment. So you're not investigating whether the files were manipulated. We have no evidence of manipulation. We have evidence of unauthorized access with your credentials. But I'm showing you proof I wasn't physically present. Sienna, please. Patricia's voice softened in that particular way that means the decision is final. We're offering you a resignation option instead of termination. I'd suggest you take it. Kyle sat beside Patricia, silent. He wouldn't meet my eyes. I realized I wasn't fighting an accusation. I was fighting a narrative already accepted as fact. The company needed a villain to make the story clean. I was convenient. I signed the resignation letter. Walking out felt like stepping off a cliff. My badge deactivated mid-stride through the lobby. The security guard who had greeted me every morning for 4 years looked away as I passed. No one met my eyes. At 2 p.m., still numb, my phone buzzed with a number I didn't recognize. Sienna? This is Marcus from Quantum Solutions. We need to talk, but not on this line. Can you meet me somewhere private? Marcus had been a colleague before moving to a competitor 6 months earlier. We met at a coffee shop in a suburb 40 minutes from downtown, far from anywhere we might be recognized. He spoke like we were being monitored, voice low, eyes checking the door. Lana pushed this hard behind closed doors, he said. She went to executives 2 weeks before the conference claiming you were preparing to steal client data and jump to a competitor. My stomach dropped. 2 weeks before. She built the case systematically. Showed logs, flagged patterns. By the time you walked on that stage, half the leadership already believed you were guilty. Why are you telling me this? Marcus stirred his coffee, uncomfortable. Because I saw her do something similar to another analyst last year. Different accusations, same method. She manufactures evidence, controls the narrative, eliminates competition. Why doesn't anyone stop her? She delivers results. The company protects people who make them money. And honestly? He looked at me directly. Most people are too afraid to challenge her. She has influence. Do you have proof of what you're saying? Nothing I can share without destroying my own career. But I wanted you to know you're not crazy. Others have noticed. No one dare say it publicly. He left cash on the table and stood to go. Be careful, Sienna. She's watching to see if you disappear quietly. After he left, I sat alone with cold coffee and a choice. I could disappear like she expected. Or I could refuse to be erased. My phone showed messages from my parents. Honey, we need to talk about what happened. When I called them back, my mother answered on the first ring. Sienna, your father and I have been discussing the situation. The false accusations, you mean? A pause. We think it might be best if you apologize to Lana and try to move past this quietly. Their words landed harder than Lana's accusation. Even my family preferred a convenient lie over my defense. You want me to apologize for something I didn't do? My father took the phone. We just think escalating this publicly won't help anyone. Lana is family. The company has made their decision. An apology might help you both move forward. Move forward to what? I lost my job. My reputation is destroyed online. And you want me to apologize? We want you to be practical, my mother said, her voice strained. Fighting this will only make things worse. People already believe Lana's version. Admitting some responsibility might salvage. Salvage what? My dignity? I'd rather lose everything than admit to fraud I didn't commit. Silence on the other end. We're just trying to help, my father said finally. Then believe me instead of managing me. I hung up before they could respond. The phone rang again immediately. I let it go to voicemail. Something closed inside me that day. A door I had kept open my entire life, hoping my family would choose me first just once. They never did. They chose comfort. They chose avoiding conflict. They chose Lana. I was alone. But alone meant I could fight without worrying about disappointing anyone. Alone meant I could be ruthless without guilt. I opened my laptop and began drafting a business plan. If the industry believed I was a thief, I would show them what I could build without stealing anything. 3 days later, I registered an LLC, Hartwell Consulting. My middle name, my company, my rules. My first client meeting was scheduled for Monday. A small tech startup that didn't know about the scandal yet. I prepared my pitch like I was preparing for trial. The startup's founder, a woman named Tessa, met me at a shared workspace in the West Loop. She was 32, sharp-eyed, and suspicious in the way people get after being burned. "I'll be honest," she said after I finished my pitch. "I googled you. There are some concerning posts." My throat tightened. There are also inaccuracies in those posts. I was accused of data theft by a former supervisor. The accusations were based on manipulated evidence. I resigned rather than fight a losing battle with corporate politics. That's a convenient story. It's a true one. But I understand if you'd rather work with someone without controversy. I gathered my materials, preparing to leave with whatever dignity I could salvage. "Wait." Tessa leaned back, studying me. "Why would your own sister accuse you publicly if it wasn't true?" That's the question I'm still trying to answer. Something in my honesty must have registered because Tessa didn't end the meeting. Instead, she asked detailed questions about my methodology, my experience, my vision for her company. An hour later, she said the words I desperately needed to hear: "I'll give you a 3-month trial contract. Small scope. Prove yourself." When she signed, relief hit like oxygen after drowning. One client. One chance. One foot back in the door I'd been thrown out of. I left that meeting and went straight to a print shop, where I ordered business cards, bought a website domain, and opened a business bank account. If I was going to rebuild, I needed infrastructure. That night, Lana called me for the first time since the conference. Her voice was warm, controlled, with that particular cadence she used when managing difficult situations. "Sienna, I heard you started consulting. I wanted to reach out and see how you're doing." The concern felt like velvet wrapped around a blade. "I'm managing. I'm glad. I know the transition has been difficult. I hope you understand I was just doing what I thought was right for the company." By accusing me of fraud with falsified evidence. A pause. When she spoke again, the warmth had cooled slightly. The evidence wasn't falsified. You may not remember accessing those files, but the logs don't lie. Logs can be edited. That's a serious accusation, Sienna. Her voice hardened. Be careful about making claims you can't prove. Defamation is a real legal concern. There it was. The threat disguised as advice. "Why did you call, Lana?" "To make sure we're on the same page. What happened at the conference was unfortunate, but it's done. Moving forward quietly benefits both of us. I'd hate to see you damage your new consulting business by stirring up old controversies." Translation: stay silent or I'll destroy what little you've rebuilt. Is that all? Just remember, Sienna. The industry is smaller than you think. Reputation matters. I'd hate to see you make yours worse by being vindictive. She hung up before I could respond. I sat staring at my phone, hands shaking with rage I couldn't safely express. She had ruined me, threatened me, and framed it as sisterly concern. But her call revealed something important. She was afraid I wouldn't disappear. And if she was afraid, maybe I had more power than I thought. 2 days later, new client inquiries came through my website. 3 companies I had never contacted. The inquiries were small projects, but they came without me pitching. Someone was referring business my way. I tracked down the source through a mutual connection. Marcus had quietly told 2 colleagues about my consulting work. They had each told someone else. A whisper network was forming. Within 2 weeks, I had 5 active clients and a waiting list of 3 more. Each contract felt fragile, like it could shatter if someone mentioned the scandal. I worked obsessively, delivering results that exceeded every expectation. My clients needed to know I was worth the risk of hiring me. Tessa's 3-month trial ended with her offering an annual retainer. "You've tripled our efficiency," she told me during the contract signing. "Whatever happened at your old company, they were idiots to lose you." The validation felt like sunlight after months of darkness. But success brought new anxiety. Each win felt stolen, temporary. I was waiting for Lana's next attack. It came through email on a Wednesday morning. Subject line: your sister. The sender was a journalist named Alexandra Prince from TechCurrent, a publication that covered industry corruption. "I've been investigating allegations of data manipulation and wrongful termination at your former employer. Your sister's name has come up in connection with similar incidents involving other employees. Would you be willing to speak on record?" My hand shook as I read the email 3 times. Speaking on record could clear my name. Or it could detonate my family permanently. I stared at the reply box for 20 minutes before typing a response. "I'd like to see your documentation first." Alexandra sent me a secure folder containing interviews with 4 former employees who had resigned or been terminated under suspicious circumstances within the past 3 years. Each one described a similar pattern. Lana identified them as threats, built cases against them using questionable evidence, then pushed them out while protecting her own position. One woman, Keisha, had been accused of sexual harassment. The evidence was a series of emails that she swore were fabricated. She had resigned rather than fight, her career destroyed. Another man, Troy, had been blamed for a failed project that was actually derailed by Lana's last-minute scope changes. He was fired. Lana was promoted. The pattern was clear, systematic, and devastating. Alexandra's investigation had been building for months. She had company documents, internal emails, and testimony from multiple sources. All she needed was someone willing to go on record with their name attached. "I know this is a risk," Alexandra wrote. "But these stories need a face. Your situation at the conference was public. That gives it weight. Are you willing?" I thought about Keisha, whose career in HR had ended because of false accusations. I thought about Troy, who was working retail because no company would hire him after his termination. I thought about my parents asking me to apologize for something I didn't do. And I thought about Lana calling to threaten me into silence. The days before making my decision felt like torture. Every phone ring spiked my pulse. Every email notification made my stomach drop. My parents called twice. I didn't answer. Lana called once. I let it go to voicemail. "Sienna, I heard a journalist has been asking questions. I hope you're being smart about this. Remember what I said about reputation." The implied threat was clear. But so was my choice. I opened my secure folder, attached the evidence I had compiled, and sent it to Alexandra with a message: "I'll go on record. Use my full name." Alexandra called me within an hour of receiving my files. "Are you sure about this? Once the article publishes, there's no taking it back." "I'm sure. Your family will know you cooperated. My family already chose Lana over truth. This won't change that." We scheduled a formal interview for the following day. Alexandra asked detailed questions about the timeline, the fabricated evidence, and Lana's behavior before and after the conference. I answered everything honestly, providing documentation for every claim. "This is solid," Alexandra said after 3 hours. "I'll have the article ready for publication next week. I'll send you a draft for fact-checking first." The waiting period was excruciating. I worked 16-hour days to distract myself from imagining worst-case scenarios. Every quiet moment my mind filled with potential headlines, family reactions, professional fallout. My phone buzzed constantly with my parents' calls. I ignored them all until my mother sent a text that stopped me cold. "Please call us. Lana told us about the article. We're begging you not to do this." I called them back. My father answered. "Sienna, what are you thinking? This will destroy our family. Lana destroyed my career with lies. I'm just telling the truth. Your truth will hurt everyone. Your mother and I will be caught in the middle. Lana's children will see terrible things about their mother online. Is that what you want?" I had prepared for many arguments, but not the weaponization of Lana's children. My nieces, ages 7 and 9, who had nothing to do with any of this. So I should stay silent to protect Lana's reputation with her kids. "We're asking you to think about the family," my mother said, her voice breaking. "Not just yourself." I thought about the family when Lana accused me on that stage. I thought about them when my career ended. I thought about them when you asked me to apologize for fraud I didn't commit. Now I'm thinking about everyone else Lana has destroyed who didn't have the ability to fight back. "You're being selfish," my father said. "I'm being honest. There's a difference." My mother tried again. "If you publish this story, we won't be able to protect you from Lana's response. She has lawyers. She has resources. She'll fight back. Let her." "Sienna, please. I'm doing this. I'm sorry it hurts you, but I won't protect someone who tried to erase me just because we share DNA." I hung up and immediately turned off my phone. I couldn't afford doubt now. 3 days later, Alexandra sent me the article draft. The headline: "Pattern of Retaliation, How One Executive Eliminated Competition Through Fabricated Misconduct Claims." It was thorough, documented, and devastating. I approved it for publication. The article went live on a Thursday morning. Within an hour, my phone, which I had reluctantly turned back on, exploded with notifications. Messages from former colleagues. Comments from strangers. Emails from journalists requesting interviews. And one text from Lana: "You've made a terrible mistake." The response was immediate and violent. People who had believed Lana's accusations now praised my resilience. Former clients reached out apologizing for believing the rumors. The same people who had doubted me weeks ago now called me brave. It felt surreal. And hollow. The article triggered an internal audit at my former company. The board announced they were reviewing personnel practices and documentation standards in Lana's department. Alexandra called with updates as the story developed. 3 more former employees have come forward with similar experiences. The company is facing serious questions about their investigation procedures. What about Lana? She's been placed on administrative leave while they investigate. Her attorney released a statement denying all allegations. I felt a strange symmetry in that. She had eliminated me through administrative process. Now the same system was turning on her. But there was no triumph in it. Just exhaustion. My business phone rang constantly with new client inquiries. Companies that had ghosted me after the conference were suddenly interested in my services again. I ignored most of them. I focused instead on the clients who had trusted me when I had nothing. Tessa, who gave me a chance when my name was mud. The startup founders who signed contracts despite the scandal. Those relationships mattered more than salvaging old ones. 3 weeks after publication, Lana appeared in my office doorway. I hadn't seen her in person since the conference. Without her corporate armor, the designer suits, the executive presence, she looked smaller, older, afraid. "We need to talk," she said. I gestured to the chair across from my desk. She sat, her usual confidence fractured. "The audit is finding irregularities," she said without preamble. "They're questioning my access logs, my project documentation, my personnel recommendations for the past 2 years. Good." Her mask slipped. Anger leaked through the composure. "You did this. You destroyed my career to save yours." I leaned back in my chair, studying the woman who had tried to erase me. I told the truth. "You're experiencing consequences. There's a difference. You went to a journalist like a coward instead of talking to me directly. You accused me of fraud on a stage in front of 300 people instead of talking to me directly. Don't lecture me about cowardice." Lana's hands clenched in her lap. "What do you want from me? An apology? Money? I'll do whatever it takes to make this stop." The request disoriented me. The woman who had buried me now needed saving. Power shifted silently between us like weight on a scale. "What I want," I said slowly, "is for you to tell the truth. Publicly. On record. Admit the evidence was manipulated. Admit you eliminated people you saw as threats. Admit you lied." "I can't do that. It would destroy everything I've built." "Like you destroyed what I built." Silence. "Why did you do it, Lana? What did I do that made you hate me enough to ruin my career?" Her composure cracked completely. "You were better than me. At everything. The clients loved you. Leadership praised you. You won the innovation award I had been trying to get for 3 years. The confession hung between us. So you destroyed me because you were jealous." I was terrified. Of being overshadowed. Of becoming irrelevant. Of losing everything I'd worked for because my younger sister was more talented. The revelation should have felt like victory. Instead, it felt heavy. I had spent months thinking Lana was a monster. But she was just insecure, cruel, and desperate. That somehow made it worse. I offered her terms she couldn't refuse and shouldn't accept if she had any pride left. "You'll cooperate fully with the company audit. You'll provide documentation of every falsified report. You'll reach out personally to every person you pushed out and offer professional references that tell the truth about their capabilities." That's career suicide. So was what you did to me. You're just experiencing it slowly instead of all at once. Lana stared at me, calculating odds, weighing options. "And if I do this, you'll what? Tell the journalist to back off?" "I'll tell the truth. That you're cooperating. That you're taking accountability. What happens after that is up to the company and the people you hurt. You're asking me to destroy myself. I'm giving you a chance to rebuild with integrity instead of lies. That's more than you gave me." She stood to leave, paused at the door. "I never wanted it to go this far. After the conference, I thought you'd just disappear quietly. When you didn't, I panicked. Why did you call to threaten me?" "Because I was afraid of exactly this. You being stronger than I expected." She left without another word. 2 days later, the company announced that Lana had resigned and was cooperating with an internal investigation into documentation irregularities. Alexandra called. Her attorney is saying she's being scapegoated. But 3 department heads have confirmed they're finding fabricated evidence in multiple personnel files. The corporate machine that had protected Lana was now crushing her. There was poetry in it. But also tragedy. Working alongside Lana during the audit was psychological warfare. The company asked me to consult on the investigation since I had first-hand knowledge of her methods. Every meeting was layered with history. We sat across conference tables discussing evidence that implicated her while maintaining professional distance. Employees watched like spectators at a quiet duel. I answered questions factually. Lana answered defensively. A forensic IT specialist named Omar reviewed the access logs from my case. "The manipulation here is sophisticated," he said during one session. "Whoever created these false records had high-level system privileges and knowledge of our security protocols." Lana said nothing. "Can you trace who made the edits?" I asked. "We're working on it. But the patterns match edits found in 6 other personnel files. All involving people who left the company under controversial circumstances." The lead investigator, a woman named Francine, turned to Lana. Do you have any explanation for why these files show administrative access from your credentials? I was supervising those cases. Of course I accessed them. The timestamp analysis shows the files were modified after the official investigations concluded. Why would you be editing closed cases? Lana's attorney, a stern man in an expensive suit, interrupted. My client doesn't have to answer questions that could incriminate her. We're here voluntarily to cooperate, not to be interrogated. Francine nodded. Of course. But the company will draw its own conclusions from lack of cooperation. After that meeting, a former employee named Brian approached me in the parking garage. I need to tell you something. About why Lana targeted you specifically. We sat in my car with the engine running for heat. Brian had worked in Lana's department for 5 years before transferring to another division. Last year, I overheard her on a phone call with a friend. She was upset about your promotion trajectory. She said you were making her look like the B team in front of leadership. That's why she fabricated evidence. It started before that. She began sabotaging your project subtly, changing deadlines without telling you, removing your name from presentations, taking credit for your ideas in meetings. Why didn't you say anything? Brian looked uncomfortable. Because she did the same thing to me when I first joined. I learned to stay out of her way. Speaking up meant becoming her next target. The revelation landed heavy. Lana's cruelty wasn't impulsive. It was systematic, practiced, refined over years of eliminating anyone who threatened her position. There's something else, Brian said. The woman before you, Keisha. She told me before she left that Lana had asked her to help fabricate the harassment emails. When Keisha refused, she became the target. Lana asked her to help frame herself? To test her loyalty. When Keisha wouldn't participate, Lana knew she couldn't be controlled. I sat in silence processing this. Lana hadn't just destroyed people. She had tried to make them complicit in their own destruction. Why are you telling me this now? Because you fought back. Everyone else just disappeared. You proved she could be stopped. After Brian left, I drove to the lake and sat watching the water until dark. I had wanted to believe Lana's cruelty came from a moment of weakness. A single terrible decision made in fear. But the truth was darker. She had built an empire on eliminating threats. I was just the first one who refused to disappear. The audit's final report was released 6 weeks after it began. The findings were devastating. Fabricated evidence in 11 personnel cases. Manipulated performance reviews affecting 17 employees. Systematic credit-taking documented across 4 years of project records. The board released a statement. We deeply regret that these practices occurred under our leadership and are implementing immediate reforms to prevent future incidents. They offered me a formal apology and reinstatement at my previous position with back pay. I declined. Why? My former manager Kyle asked when I called to refuse. You won. You could come back with your reputation restored. I don't want to rebuild in a place that chose lies over truth the first time. I've built something better on my own. There was silence on the line. You're right, Kyle said finally. We failed you. I failed you. I should have questioned the evidence instead of accepting it. Yes, you should have. After hanging up, I sat in my office looking at the client roster I had built from nothing. 15 companies. 23 ongoing projects. 3 employees I had hired to help manage the growth. Hartwell Consulting wasn't just surviving. It was thriving. My phone buzzed. Lana. Can we talk? In person. No attorneys. Just us. We met at a coffee shop equidistant from both our homes. Neutral territory for an overdue conversation. She looked different. Tired. The professional armor was gone, replaced by jeans and an old sweater. No makeup. No performance. They're not pressing criminal charges, she said without preamble. But I'm effectively blacklisted from the industry. No one will hire me. What did you expect? I don't know. I've been thinking a lot about what you said. About rebuilding with integrity. I don't know how to do that. Her vulnerability was disorienting. This was the woman who had tried to erase me. Now she sat across from me looking lost. Why are you telling me this? Because you're the only person who might understand what it's like to rebuild from nothing. Everyone else sees me as the villain. Which I am. But I don't know how to be anything else. I studied her carefully. What do you want from me? Help? Advice? I don't know. She laughed bitterly. Maybe punishment. You'd be justified. The woman who had destroyed me was asking for salvation. The irony was almost poetic. I can't fix this for you, Lana. That's not my job. I know. I just don't know where to start. I thought about the months I had spent rebuilding. The clients who took chances on me. The small victories that accumulated into survival. Start by telling the truth. To everyone you hurt. Write actual apologies, not legal statements. Offer real amends, not damage control. And then what? Then you build something honest. It won't be what you had. But it might be something you can live with. She nodded slowly. Did you ever forgive me? No. But I stopped needing to destroy you. That's the closest I can offer. Over the following months, Lana did something surprising. She reached out to every person she had pushed out. She wrote detailed apologies explaining what she had done and why. She offered professional references that told the truth about their abilities. Some people accepted. Many didn't. But she did it anyway. We met occasionally, always professionally, never personally. She was rebuilding a career as a consultant, starting from the same place I had. Small clients. Proving herself. Learning humility. It wasn't friendship. But it wasn't war anymore either. The company's board asked me to speak at an industry conference about ethical leadership and whistleblower protection. The same conference where Lana had destroyed me 18 months earlier. I accepted. Standing on that stage, I saw familiar faces in the audience. Some had believed Lana's lies. Others had stayed silent when I needed support. 18 months ago, I stood on this stage receiving an award. Before I could finish my acceptance speech, I was publicly accused of fraud. The accusation was false. The evidence was fabricated. And for months, I carried the weight of a reputation destroyed by lies. The room was silent. I'm not here to vilify my sister or the company that failed to investigate properly. I'm here to talk about the systems that enable this kind of abuse and what we can do to change them. I spoke for 30 minutes about documentation standards, investigation protocols, and the importance of verifying evidence before accepting accusations. When I finished, the applause felt different from the first time. Not celebration. Recognition. Afterward, Francine from the audit team approached me. That took courage. Coming back to the place where it started. It took clarity. I'm not the person who stood here 18 months ago. She needed external validation. I don't anymore. What changed? I learned that surviving betrayal isn't about destroying the person who hurt you. It's about building something they can't touch. As I left the conference, my phone showed a message from Lana. I watched online. You were right about everything. Thank you for not burying me when you had the chance. I didn't respond immediately. Some words needed time to settle. 6 months later, Hartwell Consulting occupied a full office suite with 8 employees and 32 active clients. We specialized in helping companies implement ethical documentation practices, the systems I wished had existed when Lana was fabricating evidence. The irony wasn't lost on me. I had built a business from the ashes of the betrayal that tried to end my career. My parents called asking to meet. We hadn't spoken since before the article published. We met at the same restaurant where we used to have family dinners. The familiarity felt strange. We owe you an apology, my father said immediately. We asked you to apologize for something you didn't do. We chose peace over truth. That was wrong. My mother's eyes were red. We were so afraid of conflict, we didn't protect you when you needed us. I'm sorry, Sienna. Their words were 18 months late. But they were honest. I appreciate that. Can you forgive us? I thought about that question carefully. I can accept the apology. I don't know about forgiveness yet. You chose Lana over me when it mattered most. That doesn't disappear with an apology. My father nodded. Fair. We'll earn it if we can. We talked for 2 hours. Not about Lana. About my business, their lives, the distance that had grown between us. It wasn't reconciliation. But it was conversation. That was something. When I left, my mother hugged me tightly. I'm proud of what you've built. Not just the business. The way you handled all of this. You were stronger than any of us. Driving home, I realized something. I had spent years seeking my family's approval. Their pride. Their validation. Now I had it. And it felt less important than I expected. The real victory wasn't their recognition. It was my indifference to needing it. My phone rang. Tessa, my first client. I'm calling with a weird request. My friend's company is dealing with a situation similar to what you went through. Fabricated evidence, retaliation, the whole nightmare. Would you be willing to consult? Of course. There's a complication. The person being targeted is Lana's former assistant. She reached out to me after seeing your conference speech. The symmetry was perfect. Lana's methods had created the very expertise that would now help dismantle similar systems. I met with the assistant, a young woman named Priya, who had documentation proving her supervisor had fabricated performance issues to justify termination. I saved everything, she said, showing me time-stamped files. Because I watched what happened to you. You showed me that documentation matters. We built her case together. Within 3 weeks, her company's HR had reversed the termination and was investigating her supervisor. You saved my career, Priya said after the decision came through. You saved it. I just showed you the tools. This became my work. Not just consulting on processes, but helping people fight back against the systems designed to silence them. Each case felt like reclaiming something Lana had tried to take from me. Not revenge. Redirection. Using the pain for purpose. A year after the audit, I received an invitation to speak at a corporate ethics summit. The keynote address. 2,000 attendees. I accepted. Standing backstage before the speech, I saw Lana in the audience. She had quietly started attending industry events again, rebuilding slowly. Our eyes met across the room. She nodded once. I nodded back. Not friendship. Not forgiveness. Just acknowledgement. We had both survived. We had both changed. My keynote focused on transforming betrayal into systematic change. I told my story without naming Lana, focusing instead on the patterns that enabled her behavior. One person didn't destroy my career. A system that valued reputation over truth destroyed it. One person didn't rebuild my career. A commitment to documentation and evidence rebuilt it. The audience responded with a standing ovation. Afterward, dozens of people approached sharing their own experiences with workplace retaliation. I collected their stories, documented their patterns, built a resource guide I published freely online. Within months, that guide had been downloaded 40,000 times. Companies were using it to reform their investigation processes. Employees were using it to protect themselves. What started as my defense mechanism became a movement. My phone buzzed constantly with interview requests, speaking invitations, consulting proposals. I hired a team to manage the demand. 3 years after Lana destroyed my reputation on that conference stage, I stood in my office looking at walls covered with thank you letters from people who had used my resources to fight back against retaliation. I had built an empire from betrayal. Not through revenge. Through refusing to disappear. My assistant knocked on the door. There's someone here to see you. Says it's personal. Lana stood in my reception area, holding a folder. I know I don't have the right to ask for your time, she said. But I wanted to show you something. Inside the folder was a business plan for an ethics consulting firm focused on helping executives recognize and correct abusive patterns. I want to help people like me stop being people like me, she said. I know it doesn't erase what I did. But maybe it redirects the damage. I studied her carefully. Why are you showing me this? Because you're the expert on transforming betrayal into purpose. And because I need to know if you think this is genuine change or just another manipulation. Her honesty surprised me. The old Lana would have hidden insecurity behind confidence. This version asked for accountability. I think it's genuine. I also think you'll spend the rest of your career proving it. That's fair. Are you asking for my blessing? I'm asking for your opinion. You've built credibility in this space. If you think this is wrong, I won't do it. I thought carefully before responding. I think there's value in former perpetrators teaching prevention. But you'll face skepticism. People will question your motives. You'll need to be transparent about your past. I know. That's why my website will lead with the full story. What I did. Who I hurt. What I'm doing to change. She showed me the draft website. It was unflinching. Honest. Painful. This will cost you professionally, I said. So did lying. At least this cost comes with integrity. Over the following months, Lana built her practice around radical transparency. She spoke at conferences about her own abusive patterns. She offered free workshops on recognizing toxic behaviors. Some people praised her courage. Others called it performative. But she kept doing it anyway. We never became close. But we developed a professional respect. 2 women who had survived the same system from opposite sides. 5 years after the conference, I was invited to testify before a congressional committee on workplace retaliation protections. I brought documentation, case studies, patterns across industries. My testimony was referenced in 3 new legislative proposals. The girl who had been publicly destroyed on a stage was now shaping policy. Karma hadn't been loud. It had been patient, methodical, complete. Standing in my office today, 7 years after Lana tried to erase me, I look at what survived her attempt at destruction. A company with 42 employees serving clients across 12 industries. A published guide that's been downloaded 300,000 times. Legislation that's being adopted in 7 states. And a reputation I built without stealing anyone else's. My sister didn't destroy me. She tried. And in trying, she gave me the exact motivation I needed to build something she could never touch. Revenge never felt like fire. It felt like gravity. Slow. Inevitable. Grounding. I didn't destroy Lana. I survived her. And survival reshaped everything. My phone shows a message from a woman who used my guide to successfully fight wrongful termination. She's the 8,000th person to reach out this year. I respond to each one personally, because I remember what it felt like when no one believed me. When my own family asked me to apologize for fraud I didn't commit. When the industry I loved turned its back. I built an empire from that darkness. Not by being vindictive. By being meticulous. By documenting everything. By refusing to disappear. The woman on that stage 7 years ago needed external validation to know her worth. She needed awards and recognition and family approval. I don't anymore. My worth isn't determined by anyone's opinion. It's determined by the systems I've changed, the people I've helped, and the integrity I've maintained while doing it. My sister ruined my reputation. Karma was patient. But more importantly, I was prepared. And in the end, preparation proved more powerful than destruction. My name is mine again. Stronger than before. Built on truth instead of lies. And absolutely untouchable. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been falsely accused or had your reputation destroyed by someone you trusted, comment below and share where you're watching from. You're not alone in this experience. Subscribe for more stories about turning betrayal into purpose, about building something so strong that those who try to destroy you can't touch it. Remember, your worth isn't determined by anyone's lies about you. It's determined by the truth you build. Until next time, document everything and trust yourself. You're worth defending.